Hey guys, Paul here from Military History Gear Review, and today we are going to be checking out an essential survival skill that almost no one else talks about, and that is making sure your feet are always good to go. So stick around. Alright guys, so anybody that served any amount of time in the ground forces, like the Army, the Marines, or another country's ground forces, knows that when you depend on your feet to walk everywhere, caring for your feet becomes an essential task, right? And that's because there's so many risks to your feet, and if you have to rest, you're dead in the water, right? Stuff like trench foot, frostbite, blisters, infections, all sorts of stuff, right, can mess with your feet. And of course, the first step to caring for them we think of as socks. But socks in militaries is actually a relatively new invention, right? For a long time, since at least the medieval era, soldiers depended on foot wraps, right? So what is a foot wrap? Well, a foot wrap is just like you see here. It is a piece of cotton or wool or muslin that is used to wrap up the feet and functions in a lot of ways that a sock does. Now, what makes it such an important survival skill is that, as you can see, this is a pretty standard foot wrap, and it's just 45 centimeters by 45 centimeters square, and you can wrap it around your feet. So you could fashion this out of almost any piece of clothing or cloth that has 45 by 45 centimeters of area, right? And if you're in a situation where your feet get wet, your socks get a hole in them, right? Or you're just really cold and you need an extra layer of protection on your feet, well, this is the solution, okay? The other nice thing is these dry very quickly, right? And they can even be used to sort of adjust the fit if boots are too large or you already have a blister. You can wrap it in different ways to mitigate the blister. So let's take a look about how to wrap, one way to wrap your feet in a foot cloth or foot wraps, right? So I'm going to be taking my foot, right, placing it in the center of the diamond shape wrap. I'm going to take the outside corner, fold it over, nice and neat, tuck it underneath. Right? Once I do that, I'm going to take the back corner, the corner closest to my heel. I'm going to pull it nice and taut, and I'm going to wrap it tightly around my ankle. Right? Then I'm going to take the inside corner. I'm going to pull that nice and snug, right? And take it up and over. And then I'm going to fold it all around. I'm going to pull the toe taut so that the material on the bottom of the foot should be largely flat. Right? Once I've done that, all I'm going to do is slip it right into my boot. Now, I've done a little bit of walking today, right? Especially here in the snow. And I gotta say, one complaint that I have is that they don't, like socks, cover the ankle. This wrapping does allow some debris to get in. Now, there are Soviet-style foot wraps that sort of mitigate this problem by coming higher up the ankle, and of course the Soviets famously used jackboots. Now, the earliest use of official military foot wraps dates to around the era of Peter the Great in Russia, and he mandated, of course, his troops that were operating in wintry, cold, potentially very wet conditions needed to be able to protect their feet well, and so he standardized the use of foot wraps, and they quickly spread throughout Europe and even into North America. But they were especially popular in German-speaking and Slavic-speaking countries. And I think that's probably because they originated in that area, but also because those were countries where soldiers were most likely to fight in prolonged, wintry, wet conditions where the danger of developing frostbite, hypothermia, trench foot was very high, right? As a result, a lot of militaries, especially Ukraine's and Russia's, maintained the use of foot wraps well into the 1990s, long after other militaries had gone over to socks. this is probably, this is probably a largely cultural move. They were really seen as culturally connected to those countries' military services. But in the 90s, Russia got rid of their foot wraps, replacing them finally with socks, and Ukraine did in the year 2000. Ukraine actually had a ceremony to retire the foot wrap, where soldiers read poems and told stories about the fabled foot wraps, right? Again, so very useful tool for militaries, but also very useful for survivalists and outdoorsmen who could find themselves in a situation where their socks are soaked, their socks are ruined, their feet need to be warmer, they need extra layers, anything like that. Knowing how to quickly improvise a way to keep your feet warm and dry is an absolutely essential survival skill, I think. So that's all I had for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, be sure to like the video. Be sure to hit subscribe. It tells YouTube that I'm making quality content. And let me know in the comments below if you've ever used foot wraps in your military or civilian career. How were you taught to wrap them? What do you think is the best way? And what tips do you have? All right, so that's all I've got. And until next time, I'll see you guys on the trail.